We're still waiting for Zoom.
You too. You're on.
And here we go. So Cindy, could you hear that?
No, I could not.
It's like a silent movie, our audio technical skills.
Well, silent movies are good.
It's good. Welcome everybody. It's Friday night. It is SIP 68. We have a dear old friend in the wine business with us this evening. But before we get into that, I want to welcome Amy McGowan, Chad Angelo, fellow winemaker who also is not in the vineyards this evening harvesting. Thank you, Doug Rutherford.
Hey, Chad.
Hans and Caitlin Greasy, Jan Kiefer, who we got to meet in person out in the Valley 3 weeks ago, Jeff and Jane Greasy. You're going to hear the theme Greasy a lot because there are a lot of Greasies in this tribe that are wine lovers. Jim Brubaker, Jim Bandy, new name, Catherine Jerica. Catherine, thanks so much for your persistence today. Mark Challenor, Mary Lou Hansen, Michael Cabral, Peter Glick back, Scotland Kiefer back in the house. So this is a very exciting episode for us because we're going to talk about blending. And it is basically the earliest wine were always blends. Very recently did they start doing single varietal, but we have a person who's been blending all of her winemaking life for the most part. And it's something that we're going to be excited to showcase. We're going to be sharing with you some of her tips and tricks and secrets. But for those of you that are in fact new, let me explain to you who's been rambling for the last minute and a half. My name is Martin Cody. I am a co-founder of Cellar Angels. We are a direct-to-consumer wine company. We focus exclusively on wines from Napa and Sonoma. And I had the pleasure over 10 years ago to meet tonight's guest and provide our first film video of her many moons ago. And we haven't looked back. This is, I think, her fifth episode or fifth appearance with Cellar Angels, or even more, actually. And tonight we're going to be talking about her blend, specifically the 2017 Connect, but really more importantly, how she does it, why she does it, the science and art of it. And for the new folks, you can go ahead and grab what is referred to as a SIP kit. And the way you do that is to go to the Cellar Angels website, and you can go up to shop, go to wine, and you can come hit wine, and it will be right up here. Here's the Cellar Angels SIP kit. It actually shows you what is in it. The wines, you can just click on it, and this will give you the wines for the next consecutive Fridays. And you can see we've got Howell Mountain coming up, Sol Rouge, a Sangiovese, a aged Chenin Blanc from a very cool winery that is, those vines are 40 to 50 years of age, unheard of. So grab a SIP kit, you're all set, and you can sit back and relax and do what we're doing here. So let's get into it, because Cindy Cosco is tonight's guest. She is the founder, chief bottle washer, winemaker, custodian, reservations, tour guide, vineyard manager extraordinaire of Passaggio wines. And Cindy, it is so good to see you again.
You made me tired just saying all that, Martin. It's good to see you too.
And everyone gave her a round warm of applause. There's mission control. You got to like that. All right. So for those of you that don't know Cindy, Cindy was she traveled across country, was a former law enforcement officer, I think in Virginia or West Virginia?
In Virginia.
In Virginia.
Northern Virginia.
And decided that this is a little bit too dangerous. So I'm still curious how I understand running and chasing bad guys, and that's not a lot of fun. I think it would be less fun today. But how did you get into wine? Because did that occur during the law enforcement age, or as a child with family and grandparents? Tell me about that.
As a child with family, my grandfather made wine. He's Italian. So all the Italians made wine in their basement. They probably still do. And that's where I fell in love with wine. Growing up with that, always around the table with wine, pasta, you name it.
Awesome. And how old were you when you first realized that, okay, I've graduated from the kids' table to maybe the grown-up table?
Probably around 11 or 12.
Very nice. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
sure you being a law enforcement officer, I'm sure the statute of limitations on underage drinking has long since expired.
Been drinking wine a long time.
Notice the professional dodge of that question, ladies and gentlemen. So you come out to the valley and you decide to make wine in Napa and Sonoma. Why not make wine in Virginia?
Well, that's a good question. I actually, when I came out here, to be honest with you, I followed somebody out here. And when I was out here, I wanted to get into the wine industry. So, and I didn't know quite how to do that. How do you get into the industry? This was back in 2004.
Okay.
So I ended up, make a long story short, I ended up working for Chateau St. Jean for 3 years, and I was their lab tech, and found out that what I wanted to do after 3 years of learning about wine, what I wanted to do was make it.
Okay. So lab tech, not so much fun. Making wine seemed to be the glory.
Exactly. Well, who knows? Find
Still
out later.
waiting-
We'll find
still
out
waiting
later.
yeah, still waiting for the glory part. I get it. Perfectly understand. Jim Bandy is actually sipping a 2017 Connect.
Hey, Jim.
So how do you know Jim? I had the pleasure of working for her.
Jim worked for me in the tasting room.
Sweet. Awesome. Hello, Jim. Welcome. So then you come out to the valley, you learn how to make wine, you take some classes, you go to Chateau St. Jean, and then you decide, okay, I think I want to try my hand at this. And by the way, this is something that I am positive Doug Rutherford, Peter Glick, I know Jeff and Jane, every one of us that have been out to the valley, you do kind of sit back after a couple of glasses of wine and go, hey, this wouldn't be that bad. We could make wine.
Right.
And so who did you talk to then, or who did you decide, hey, let me experiment with your grapes, or how did you do that?
So I heard of this place called Crush Pad. This was back in 2007. They were in San Francisco. I went to their open house. I wanted to make an unoaked Chardonnay. This was not very popular then, but I wanted to do that. I went to their open house and talked to Michael Zitzloff, who was their head winemaker, about making an unoaked Chardonnay there. It was a huge custom crush facility in San Francisco. And go ahead.
It's not the Dog Patch folks, is it?
No, that was later, Dog Patch later.
Got it.
So as I was talking to him, he offered me a job, and I became their lab manager in 2007, and I launched Passaggio Wines with 50 cases of unoaked Chardonnay.
That's incredible. I love the courage. I love the persistence. And then fast forward to 2010 or early 2011, we get to meet you. And we filmed you where?
Up in Napa on Silverado Trail Studios. Which
also is no longer there.
Right.
And which is unfortunate because that was 10 years ago, everyone. And so this is Cindy. This is, I'm not certain what's so funny. This is Cindy 10 years ago and looking.
I'm not laughing at you.
Oh, no, you are laughing at me, looking shocked at who is interviewing her across the table because I apparently am way overdressed. So I'll get me off of there. But that was us filming you 10 and a half years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my high school picture. She's aged much better than I have. And you've moved around a bunch, but the passion for blends has never wavered. Why is that?
I think they're more interesting, to tell you the truth, than single varietal. I mean, don't get me wrong, single varietal wines are great, but I think, the blends are more interesting to me. And you get to play around with it. So.
Right. No, that's a good point. And so how do you determine the blends? And I've always wondered this from a chef perspective, because a chef he or she has kind of an idea in their head about what they want the final product to be. And then we'll go out and source ingredients to manifest that. Yet sometimes as a farmer, it could be whatever that one cooking show is where they give you the ingredients and then they want you to make the dish. So how is it for you?
For me, and I'm probably going to go off the grid with it. For me, during harvest, I get an idea in my head of the fruit that I'm bringing in, of what I want to make or blend, so to speak. And so I try to, in my head, think of what that would be like and push those wines in that direction.
Okay.
I hope they come out.
Well, and I noticed that, I mean, you've got not the mainstream varietals. I mean, you do have a Pinot Noir, but for the most part, they're Italian or French. And how do you pick the ingredients, if you will, or varietals that you want to monitor the harvest of to see what the fruit's doing, to then participate and have those be in the blend?
I like to try to, like you said, I like to try to find different varietals than everybody else has. And I think they're more fun, more interesting. And so, and I go and I try to find small vineyard producers to work with their fruit.
Okay.
That's more interesting to me as well.
And there's, as most people don't know, there's far more growers than there are wineries. And so there's tons of farmers and producers. How do you pick the producers that you want to work with?
I think, Martin, I think sometimes they just find me.
Which is good. That's a validation of you.
Yeah, I think they just find me, actually. I don't really seek out, so to speak, just word of mouth. They come and they say, "Hey, Cindy, I've got some Cab Franc. Would you be interested in, doing that? Or I've got a little extra, whatever." And I'll say, "Sure, it sounds interesting. Let's do it."
Well, if I remember correctly, didn't you tell me that you were never going to make a white wine?
I was never going to make a red.
Oh, you were never going to make a red. That's right. Yeah, you were doing unoaked Chardonnay. You were doing some white blends, and you were never going to make a red.
Yep.
And you have something in the vicinity of what, 17 to 20 SKUs right now?
Something like that.
How many of them are red?
Probably half of them. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
What happened there?
Well, it started off with the Pinot Noir. So everyone kept asking me to make a red, and I thought, well, if it had to be a red, it had to fit my repertoire, of lighter style. And so I made a Pinot Noir. And when I made that Pinot, I caught the bug of making a red. It's just so much fun to do it. It's way different than making a white wine. So
interesting. And it's funny because Chad Angelo is the one who says, "No, I said I would not make a white wine."
Is that what Chad said?
So Chad's not going to make a white wine. And Jeff and Jane have a question that says, "Cindy, how do you then get to the consistency you are looking for when you don't know the grapes well from year to year?"
It's not consistent. With a small lot says I do, it's never the same every year. Every year is different. So even though I make the connect every year, it's different every year.
Well, and to me, the Connect is a, I think, crazy cool blend. First of all, it's Cab Franc dominant, which you don't see a lot of. And then you throw in the Merlot, and then a healthy amount, 19% Petite Verdot.
Yeah.
And the Petite Verdot is normally a rounding error in the blends up in the valley, to where someone puts 2% in or 3% in, 19%. So what about these three ingredients spoke to you?
The Cab Franc for sure. The Cab Franc, when it's fermenting, it smells like jalapeno peppers. It's really cool. The Merlot is so interesting as well. It comes from the same vineyard, so it has a very distinct fermentation smell. And then the Petit Verdot, this particular year, 2017, was very light. It was a very light color and mouthfeel for some reason. So that's why there's so much of it in there.
I love it. And welcome to Julie Fogarty, Jenny Jeffers. And
Jenny Jeffers.
Jenny Jeffers in the house. And don't forget, kids, cameras come on at hour. And Jenny is drinking the 15 Connect.
Whoa.
So in the business, we like to say Jenny knows someone.
Yeah.
So that's how that happens. Let's go with our first poll question of the evening, since we talked about your law enforcement days.
All right.
And everyone that's new here, we connect your email to a Venmo account because there's a $5 ante on questions.
Do I
Cindy's
get
no
that?
longer,
Do I get that?
Cindy is no longer in law enforcement, so gambling is perfectly fine in this venue.
Perfectly fine.
What is more difficult? And Cindy's going to have to answer this: chasing bad guys fully weighted with a vest and gear, or crafting wine now that you've been doing this for 15 years? Now I'm going to give these folks about 10 more seconds. Or the answers are chasing bad guys, crafting wine, or Zooms with Cellar Angels. So we are going to give this 5, 4, 3, 2. I would like the names of the people that are voting with Zooms with Cellar Angels, and you will see me after class. 2, 1. Thank you, Chad, for the honesty. Chad says, I did not say Zoom with Cellar Angels.
Anybody? Oh my gosh.
So most of the group has said that chasing bad guys is more difficult. A few have said crafting wine, and I know they're radically different, but I also know it was a particular bad guy chase where you realized, all right, I've had enough of this. I am too old for this. This is insane. So from a difficulty standpoint, what is the challenge, or what is harder?
Chasing bad guys.
Chasing bad guys. All right. Everyone else has to re-ante. That group is ahead in the count this evening. And crafting wine, we talk about it a lot with winemakers. Making wine is easy. Selling wine is hard.
Yes.
And selling wine, I would particularly say selling wine in the past 7 years has been excruciatingly difficult. And most of the Cellar Angels, we call them angels, they know kind of the mission that Cellar Angels is on, and it's to help the small producer. And we've been doing it for 11 years, founded in 2010, because every single thing is stacked against the small producer. The cost of glass is more, the cost of shipping materials is more, the cost of labels is more, because you don't have the scale. The cost of shipping is more. So it is really a very, very uneven playing field, especially with a lot of the ordinances on who can have a tasting room, who can't have a tasting room, and those sorts of things. So when you started making wine, did you realize how difficult it was going to be to sell it?
No, I did not. When I started making wine, Martin, I just wanted to make a little bit. I just wanted to make a small amount, just for my own edification, make 50 cases, sell that, make another 50 cases, sell that, just to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
It just exploded. It just kept growing.
You know what I think the problem was?
Okay.
You started making reds.
I wish you'd have told me that a long time ago.
I think it's a simple math thing. You had 7 or 8 SKUs, and now you've got 19, and most of them are red.
Maybe I should make a white. I don't know.
No, your whites are terrific. And so let's get into the blending aspect of it, because I have this. And all of us have looked at the back of the wine labels before, where you get to see the crazy percentages and stuff like that. And I have this vision in my head that it's kind of 3 or 4 people sitting around a table with beakers, lab glasses. Yep, there's some beakers or vials. I didn't do well in chemistry, so I don't know what the terminology is. But tell me what it is. Like, how do you get the juice? Do you take it from the barrel and put it in the glass vials and then sample it by eyedropper? How do you do all this?
So how I do it is, so you see the bottles in the back, straight from the barrel to the bottles. So say for instance, we were doing the Connect, there's 3 wines there.
Okay.
Cab Franc, the Merlot, and the Petite Verdot. So I bring that home. I have a friend of mine who lives in LA. Her name is Linda Yee. And she works with me during harvest, and we have the same kind of palate. And so she helps me with this. So then you have your graduated cylinder back there. and you sit around the table and you play with the blends until you come up with something that you think you really, really like. And then I come back to it the next day and I do it again. Did I really, really like that? So that's how I do it.
All right. So you've already purchased barrels of wine. The wine is in barrel.
Wine is in barrel. Yes.
And you could have 15 varietals. So
Sure.
let's just say 10 varietals.
Okay.
I don't want to give you a bigger portfolio than you have. And then you thief out a bottle of each varietal and bring them home. And then how do you decide? Go ahead.
Whatever blends I'm working on. Yes, I do it that way.
Okay. When you say whatever blends I'm working on, what do they start out as?
So you have let's just say we had 3 barrels.
Okay.
We have a barrel of Merlot, we have a barrel of Cab Franc, and we have a barrel of Petite Verdot. So I bring home each one of those in those 3 bottles separately. And now we're going to blend them. But you have to remember that you only have 60 gallons in each barrel. So we're not going to use, we might use all 60 gallons of Cab Franc, but we're not going to use all 60 gallons of Merlot. We're not going to use all 60 gallons of Petit Verdot. So it's a percentage thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
But
whatever.
you also have a barrel of Grenache, and you have a barrel of, Pinot Noir. So how do you decide what goes in what?
That's not going anywhere right now. So the Grenache might go into the GSM.
That's what I mean. It's like, what's the question from Mission Control? Okay, yeah, and then so when you like this particular blend with the Connect is 19% Petite Verdot. So the Petite is going to be the first one that gets depleted, right? Because it's the fewest amount or the least amount. Or the Cab Franc's going to be the first one. Then there's going to be Petite Verdot left over and Merlot left over. So what do you do with those?
If that's the percentage, yes.
And then what do you do with that extra juice?
So we might make those a single varietal.
Okay. And then if you don't make them a single varietal, do you sell it off or do you give it to friends?
I have not done that before. You could sell it to friends. You could blend it into something else. I could give it away.
Chad says drink it.
Drink it. Just bring the barrel home. Drink it, right, Chad? Yeah.
So is the Connect always these 3 varietals?
Normally, yes. It has been Cab Sauv before. I can't remember if Jenny Jeffers would let us know if that's Cab Sauv in the 2015. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is.
And are you blending like over 30 days because the fruit's coming in at different times or longer, or how does that all work?
No. I'm usually doing blending like about a month before bottling.
Oh, okay. So this has all been in barrel for 6, 12 months, 18 months.
Yeah.
18 months.
Yeah.
Interesting. And Jim says that's what he remembers the 15 was as well.
Thank you, Jim.
So have you ever thought about selling a seat to the table where you're blending for an amateur to also participate?
Well, that would be fun.
I think that would be fun.
That would
So
be
that
great.
Mission Control has raised her hand with such authority. I thought she was going to tear a rotator cuff.
We could do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, and Hans and Caitlin are volunteering as a tribute. So yeah, Chad Angelo, let the bidding begin.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun from a standpoint of getting an up close, bird's eye view of exactly the process of what goes on. And do you do it at the Treasure Island facility?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's right behind me.
We could do it there.
All right, so I'm thinking I'm getting a handle on this. So you have all these barrels available,
right?
And you have to pick. I mean, the GSM, what varietals are going to go in there are fairly evident.
Right.
It's not Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, Chardonnay.
Right. Could be.
Could be.
Could be.
GSM plus S. I don't want to put any seeds in your head. I don't want to see a 2022 GSM S.
Okay. One interesting thing I want to tell you though, when you've got this done right here, you've got your 100% blend. Then you got to go back out into the winery and you got to put it together there. It's not quite going to be exact because this is exact. You're dealing with, exact numbers here. Out in the winery, it's going to be a little different. It'll come out about the same, but not quite.
So you fill that tall thing with the green base.
Uh-huh.
What did you call that thing? I got it right.
That's a graduated cylinder.
Thank you. Mission control.
That's mission
Yeah.
control. Wow.
Mission control was wrong.
And she's a nurse.
Yeah. She's a nurse. Watching too many Muppets. It's a beaker. Graduated cylinder.
Mhm.
And that thing you fill up to what, 100?
100 mils, yeah.
Okay.
So your percentages have to go up to 100%.
Correct. And so you'll just try all sorts of different blends in the graduated cylinder to say, okay, let's try 80 Cab Franc 1010. And then you pour that out into 2 glasses.
Yep.
Or red solo cups. And then what do you cleanse your palate with in between?
I usually have like maybe some bubbles on the side. I like that. You can do crackers, I guess, if you wanted to, but.
So then you make copious notes and you say, okay, this one at this blend, how many blends will you give, or how many attempts, I should say, will you give yourself to determine, okay, we've done a dozen of these so far.
Yeah, if I'm into it like 6 or 7, 8 blends, I'm done for that. I can't do it. My palate won't last that long.
Palate fatigue for sure.
Mhm.
So usually after 8, the 2 of you have kind of aligned and said, yeah, this one's rock solid.
Okay.
And then you sleep on it and come back. And do you taste the same blend that you made the night before, or do you grab the 3 bottles and make it again?
I make it again. Yeah.
And then have you ever had a situation where you're like, wow, this is terrible. This is not at all what I remember.
No, not really.
Oh, good. Whew. Well, that's pretty interesting. Jeff and Jane, but where do you start, Cindy? Because the possible combinations are limitless.
Endless. Yes, they're endless. You can start whatever varietal you want to be in the forefront. Start with that as like 80%, and then go from there. 75% and go from there. And then if you don't like that, then you start changing it. Say maybe this one shouldn't be in the forefront. Maybe the other one should be.
So how do you determine which one is going to be at the forefront?
I always go with the heavier one.
Okay. So the bigger, bolder, heavier wine should be the dominant.
Some people, because my wines aren't that heavy. I mean,
Right.
Wines are pretty light to begin with. So in this case, the Cab Franc was the heavier wine. And so if I'd have gone with the other ones, it would have been an even lighter wine.
Oh, that's a good point. So Jeff, the answer to your next question is, so you knew you were going to be Cab Franc dominant going in because it's the bigger one of the varietals.
Yes. For me, for my wine, for my portfolio.
All right. That makes perfect sense. I'm going to launch our second poll question because one of the things people seem to believe is that great wine has to be expensive. And as we have said for 11 years at Cellar Angels, we drink very serious wine. We just don't take ourselves very seriously.
There you go.
So the most expensive wine in Cindy's portfolio is $35, $52, $68, $74, $82. Cell phones down. Do not Google her website right now. No one likes a cheater. We're going to give this about another 10, 15 more seconds, 5 more seconds. I'll just give it enough time for me to take a sip.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you like it?
I love it. Love, love, love.
Good.
And I'll give this 5, 4, what's that?
The Rosso too is amazing.
3, 2, yeah. All right, so we do have some smart angels. So
Wow.
two people had thought that there was $35. Most picked 52, several picked 68. No one, interestingly enough, 74.82. There is, I bet you could count on one hand the over 1,500 producers in Napa and Sonoma that don't have a wine above 52. And you're one of them. So your top wine is the wine we're drinking this evening. The Connect is $52. Everything else is underneath.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this because you're on air. I've never not liked any of your wines.
Well,
Never.
Thank you, Martin.
The rosés, I love the unoaked Chardonnay, all of it. I mean, it's so good. The Roto, it's everything is from a quality standpoint, and quality to price ratio is ridiculous. So this is something to where if you aren't going to buy the Connect from Cellar Angels, go to Cindy's website and just start buying cases of wine, because at $30, at $28, at $22, you can have this wine all summer long into the fall and into the what we call the feeding season, October, November, and December. And these wines are going to grace the table and be really something to showcase. And people will marvel when you tell them, oh yeah, I got this. You can't get it because you can't find it. And it was $26. And that's the type of stuff that brings people together. So Chad actually says he's picked up some of Cindy's Chenin Blanc, and it's awesome.
Thank you, Chad.
By the way, for those of you that don't know Chad Angelo is the winemaker and proprietor of Angelo Cellars. So when another winemaker talks about another winemaker's stuff, it's nice. And for those of you that also don't know, I was equipped last week with a wardrobe ensemble donated by Chad. So it was the best I've looked on Cellar Angels, barring a few episodes. All right, it is at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to give some people the opportunity that if they would like to be seen and are fully clothed, that would be good to turn on their cameras.
Oh my God.
We've had some rough episodes, Cindy. I'm not going to tell you. We had to put a disclaimer out there.
Okay.
And quite honestly, we don't let my brothers on anymore.
Okay.
So have you been to France?
I have not.
Obviously, you've been to Italy.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I mean, even the Super Tuscans are all blends.
Yes.
So you're looking at, obviously the Rhones are blends, most of them. And so there had to be a just a kind of a warmth, like an old sweater where you start making blends and it just feels so natural to you. Is there a blend that knocked you off your socks?
I would have to say the Rosso was probably one of my favorite blends.
Yeah, that was so solid. And what about anything that you've come across, say, whether it's a Rhone, a Bordeaux? Is there anything that speaks to you from that standpoint?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
And what about in the Valley? Who do you think? Yeah, who do you think actually, like someone who makes some really good wines?
I think Steve Law with McLaren makes some pretty good wines.
Yeah, he's a Cellar Angels favorite.
Yeah.
He's actually coming on, I think, in a month or so. He'd be fine if I could just understand a word he says with that accent.
You gotta look right at him, Martin. You gotta look right at his face when he's talking.
It is difficult. That man is funny. I like that man.
Yeah.
So how long, by the way, does the blending take with 15 SKUs now or in growing? How long are you blending for?
One wine might take me a couple days to come up with a blend.
And then you go to the winery, you pick out the barrels, you try to do some math, you check the math, then check the math again. And then
it's like measure twice. Yeah.
And then you blend. And then, so this whole process, when you start blending to then getting the blend into bottles, are we looking at weeks here, or is this pretty quick?
It depends on my time, on the time I have. Sometimes I've blended a couple days before bottling.
Oh, wow.
And I've been able to do it like a month and a half or so before bottling, which is what you should be doing, really.
Right. Hans and Caitlin, there's two people that have taken your picture and put it on the screen. I'm not certain that's you, but for your edification, Cindy, Jeff and Jane Greasy have only missed one sip of the 68.
Oh my
So
gosh.
they've been on.
What prize do they get?
It's still to be determined. We're working on that.
All right.
That's
awesome.
behind door number 2 yet. So we will see. No, incredibly loyal to the Angels. He had a doctor's excuse. We'll give him a free pass on the episode that he missed. It was a legit excuse. And so that's good. But now Hans and Caitlin is the first time we've seen you. Jenny, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in.
Hi, Jim. Love the hat.
I do like the hat. So the future, actually, let me do this. Let me show folks where you are.
Okay.
And we'll do a little Google Earth. I'll back out a tad. All right, so I don't know why my borders are off. Interesting. So everyone recognizes that body of water. Where are my counties? That'll be too much, I bet. Interesting. So let me get into wine region. There we go. Whew. All right, so you have Sonoma County, Napa County, Pacific Ocean, San Pablo Bay, water everywhere. And for those of you that don't know it, there's not a single wine region in the world of merit that does not have a maritime influence.
That's right.
Every single one, which is why, sadly, the western slopes of Illinois, where I hail from, don't produce good wine. It's a challenge with 600 feet top elevation in Illinois. They do have the Mississippi and Lake Michigan, but it's just not enough to really be the maritime influence. I love this vantage point because it gives people an idea of just how large Sonoma County is compared to Napa County. And it really is mind-boggling until you drive it, because the wineries are a little bit further apart. You have to cover some distance. Santa Rosa to Healdsburg is 15, 20 minutes, but from down in Sonoma all the way up to Cloverdale and Geyserville up in that region, it's a good hour away. So it's a big valley, and that's not even counting the stuff to the west. And you can get lost out here, and it's a great place to get lost because there's some amazing wineries and amazing vineyards out there. So now the first vineyard that we're going to go to is, you talked about sourcing from small family growers. Now, whose vineyard is this?
This is the John Abbini vineyard. This road on the left, the long road you see on the left, is Broadway.
And if you can make it on Broadway.
Yeah, if you can make it on Broadway, you got it, man.
You could make it anywhere. Exactly.
So this is about probably 1.5 miles or so south of the town of Sonoma.
Okay. And why do you like the Abbini vineyards and the Abbini family?
Well, first of all, I love John Abbini. If anybody knows who John Abbini is, you got to love that guy. He's been in the business probably 40 years or so.
Wow.
I'm just guessing. He is the one-man show, like I am. He even picks the fruit. So if I'm like, say I'm getting a ton of Sauv Blanc on Monday. He is going to pick that himself.
No way.
And have it ready for me to pick up.
So, and it's interesting. I did not know this was Broadway. I think I always referred to it as 12, which same thing. But you're right, because all of us, when we drive into Sonoma, come in this direction for the most part, and it dead ends right into the Sonoma Square.
Right.
And so it's a beautiful square, not too dissimilar to the one in Windsor, to the one in Healdsburg. And It is a great place to walk around. Girdle and the Fig is right over here at that corner. But what's interesting is just how close this is to Main Street per se.
Mhm.
And I think it's also interesting and fascinating and heartwarming when you say that here's a gentleman that's been doing this for 40 years and he's going to pick your Sauv Blanc for you.
Yep. He picks it all. He picks everything for me.
And so do you walk the vineyards with him and make the
Yes.
determination on, okay, this is ready, let's get in here and pick? Or
I sure do.
now that I would imagine would be an attribute of the smaller growers that you don't get with the larger growers.
Right. Exactly. You know, we walked the vineyard last week, took some samples, and I pulled in Pinot Grigio on, I don't even remember what day it is, a few days ago. And then took samples today for the Sauv Blanc, and we're going to pick it on Monday.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you mentioned that you're going to get a ton of Sauv Blanc. Couple questions.
Yep.
How many cases would a ton of Sauv Blanc produce?
That's 2 barrels. That's 50 cases.
50 cases.
And just to tell you, just to explain to you about what's happening this year with the vineyards, I usually get about 1.5 to 2 tons from that block, and we're seeing less and less fruit this year, tonnage wise, because of the drought.
Okay, and Hans has a question that says a literal ton picked by one person. How long would that take? And we have to qualify that, John, because how long is it going to take John to pick it, or how long would it take Martin to pick it?
And me, it would take me 3 days to pick that. It takes him probably a few hours to pick that.
No way.
Oh my God.
That is frighteningly fast. And then, so that Sauv Blanc will come in and you will do what with it?
So the first thing we're going to do, it's going to go straight into the press.
Okay.
Press it off. It's go into a cold tank and settle for a few days, and then we'll rack off of that and get it going. Put the yeast in and get it going from there.
So you will inoculate or rely on native yeast?
I inoculate everything.
Okay. And how long have you been working with John?
Since 2016.
And Jeff, this gets kind of back to your question earlier where you talked about how do you decide on the grapes because of the consistency. Do you have, and Chad, we've talked about this with you too, and a stagecoach fruit for the cab. Do you sign agreements with these people? Is it a handshake agreement? Is it a 5-year agreement? So you can kind of hedge your bet and have a little arbitrage. If there is a bad year from Mother Nature, at least you get the next 4 years. How does that all work?
All of my vineyards are a handshake. If you were working with larger vineyards, they'd probably require a contract.
Right.
But all of mine are handshake.
When you're shaking hands, do you have your badge on you from when you were
and my gun?
And your gun? Exactly. I'm stunned by how good your contracts are. That is amazing. That is really good. All right, let's go look at the second vineyard where you're sourcing some fruit from.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the aging potential, by the way, of the 17 Connect?
I would say probably 8 to 10 years, maybe, or so. Or
Awesome.
longer.
Now, for those of you that have been imbibing for most of the afternoon, we're going to go to Lodi, and it's going to be quick and a distance. So I apologize for the vertigo and seasickness. All right, so now we're in Lodi, and it's interesting for me because Lodi is flat. I mean, there are no
and very hot.
And very hot, and no topographical landmarks or anything like that. I think there's a hill over here, but it's not that big of a hill. For the most part, this is flat. So what drew you to this vineyard and these folks?
Barbara Huckstead owns this vineyard, and it came by word of mouth. Tom Leaf, I don't know if Chad remembers Tom Leaf from Crush Pad days.
Yes, I do.
You do?
He does.
Okay, cool. So Tom Leaf put me in touch with Barbara Huckstead, and I got her Petite
There you
Verdot.
go.
I've gotten her Rousson. She grows really good fruit.
And so that was an invitation, and someone, again, one of those scenarios where, hey, Cindy, I have some fruit and would love for you to come out and see it, and you've heard stories about the fruit in the past.
Yeah, so I tasted, so Tom Leaf had some wines that were made from her fruit. And so I tasted through some of them, and I decided that she had a great vineyard and I wanted to do some wines from it.
Okay. And then last but not least, everyone going to San Francisco is always wondering, where can we taste Cindy's wines this time? And so you can see behind me, she is now in Treasure Island, right outside the city, or actually on the Bay Bridge, the halfway point where you always wondered, hey, what is that island over there?
That's it.
That's it. And it's not too difficult to get to, and you can sit outside and you're literally in the middle of the bay. So tell me, you've been in about 4 or 5 different spots now. This one has to be fairly unique.
This is a very, it's a very interesting spot, Martin. It's very funky. I'm reaching a different demographic of people that I haven't seen before. You know, you don't see the different demographics in Sonoma and Napa.
Right.
The beautiful views there from the Treasure Island, from there to San Francisco, and you can see into the East Bay as well. We have a large outdoor area, so whoever wants to come visit. I know Jenny Jeffers is coming soon to visit. She's on my calendar.
Awesome. And it is interesting because behind me, I mean, you can see right into the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's Treasure Island, and it is super cool because what is it if you're downtown San Francisco? Is that like a 25-minute drive when there's no traffic?
I'm not sure. Well, yeah, maybe not even that long.
Yeah.
And right now they just put a pier off of Treasure Island so that the ferry can come over from Embarcadero. So they'll be doing that soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to open up to questions because I know you have some familiar faces on here all drinking. So if Jenny, Chad, Jim, Jeff, and Jane, or Peter have questions, by all means, fire away and unmute. And then you can raise your hand. And then and I know, Cindy, a lot of your wines are made with food in mind because that is actually where you hail from and it's important to you. About the Connect, give me some ideas on some aromas and then some food pairings that you think are can't miss, must do with this wine.
So for this particular vintage, I think it's very floral for one thing, and it has a peppery note to it. I wrote down some notes the other day because I hadn't tasted it in a while. Tobacco. It has a nice acidity to it, so that's what I like about it, mostly because it goes well with food. This would go great with big meat dishes.
So would you be thinking like hearty red sauces with meat, or more burgers, steaks,
Hearty
chops?
red, either way. To me, I like hearty red sauces.
Okay.
That's the Italian in me, but
I was going there. So
yeah, I saw that.
So a little, what's that?
Eggplant would go with red.
Eggplant parm?
Eggplant, grilled eggplant and red sauce.
Nice. I'll take that. I love eggplant.
Would anybody have said pork, or would that have been a bad answer?
No.
No bad answers.
Just like that, Jeff relinquishes his prize for 67 sips in a row with a pork suggestion. No, all good. Jeff, do you have a question? I see you're unmuted.
Just to be obnoxious.
Okay. We like that. So the 17 Connect, you're giving 8 to 10 years. So I think Jenny is drinking the 15, if memory serves me correctly. So that should probably be, right in its prime for the next 2 to 3 years. Perfect. Thank you, Jenny. And Jenny, I can't remember, did we verify that did the 15 have some Cabernet Sauvignon in it? It does. Okay. Awesome. So is there a wine blend, Cindy, that you have not yet crafted that you've thought, I want to do this?
I did it for the 2019.
Oh, and what was that?
So the 2019, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah,
I love it. See how well you fit in here?
but it's called the Passion Project.
I'm writing that down. And when is it going to be available?
October.
Ooh, nice.
I'll give you one varietal that's in it. Alicante Boucher.
Oh, nice.
Mm.
Come again?
Alicante Boucher.
Give us a little origin of the Italian grape Alicante Boucher.
It's one of the very few, I don't know how many there are. There's very few grapes. Grapes, when you squeeze them, white juice, right? Pulp, the white juice is in them. This is one of the very few that have red juice.
Yeah, and if memory serves, there's fewer than 1% of the grapes in California are of this varietal. I mean,
Yes.
there's not many people making Alicante Boucher.
Right.
And why that grape?
I wanted to play with it.
So you do have a little bit of mad scientist in you,
I
don't you?
do. Sorry.
He does.
Hey, Jim.
Cindy, I miss you very much.
I miss you too, Jim. I really do.
That is a riot. The tasting room says yes, you have some mad scientist in you.
Knows me well.
That is good.
Sign
So,
of a good
okay.
winemaker.
It's a sign of a good winemaker, exactly. So how is harvest looking this year, 2021?
I think the fruit is looking fantastic. There's just not much of it.
All right, so you're looking at, I think, Chad, you mentioned something about this, small yields, smaller berries, lower volume,
Yes.
could lead to more concentrated flavors. Would that be a safe assessment?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And is that because you didn't get the early rain in April and March in that time frame?
Yeah, we
May, June and July.
haven't had any rain.
Yeah. We had like 20% of the normal winter rains that we normally have December through March. And it's been warm and sunny and
Yeah.
hot, and it's just very dry. I was out there a couple of weeks ago, and you walk the vineyards and it's a dust bowl.
It is very dry.
Yeah, we were out there in mid-July, and I agree with you, Chad. You were just walking through, and we were walking through vineyards filming. It was just, you had to wait for the dust to settle behind you
Right.
Yeah.
before you shot the shot. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
crazy.
And I think you're also seeing a bigger differentiation between areas too. I noticed, the mountain fruit is way behind where
Right.
the valley floor fruit is on, getting ready to be picked or not picked. I would say Mount Veeder, where I get grapes, is probably a month behind the valley.
Wow.
Easy. Berries are probably half the size they normally are up on the mountains anyway.
I've noticed that.
So Cindy, we saw 2 of the vineyards you source from. How many do you source from total? Or how many growers?
Well, in 2019, I probably sourced from maybe 6 or 7.
Okay.
This year is only 2.
Oh, wow.
I'm only doing whites in 2021.
Hmm.
And why is that?
I got enough red to sell.
Inventory.
Yeah.
I
inventory.
just bottled 1,000 cases of red.
Wow.
Cindy, I didn't hear, what took you to Lodi? Why there? Why moving out of Napa, Sonoma, and why moving? down
Well,
to Lodi?
I wanted, well, first of all, I got her Roussan, beautiful fruit in Lodi, Roussan. And then I got her Petite Sirah. This is Barbara Huckstead's vineyard. I love her, and I made a connection. And of course, we're drinking Connect. We made a connection, and I loved working with her. So stuck with her.
And that was actually going to be a question. What is the name Connect, the origin?
So I wanted to come up with something because I love connecting people and food and wine together. And that's what this wine is all about.
I agree. Jenny has a question. The Alicante Boucher, is this the grape she tasted last time she was there?
When were you here last, Jenny?
It had red juice.
That would be it then.
That had to be it. Yep.
It's been a couple of years.
Okay.
And you had it in a big vat.
I got it in 2019. Yes, you're correct.
Oh, good. I've been waiting for that to come out.
So the Connect is really I don't know if I would call it the flagship wine of your portfolio, but it is, I mean, it encompasses everything that you are noteworthy for in the wine world. You're noteworthy for among many other things, but you love connecting people. You
I do.
love that bringing food to the table with great wines.
Mhm.
It is a blend. It is a blend of 3 magnificent grapes. And I love the fact that in years past, when there has been extra petite, you've made a single varietal Petite Verdot.
There's another one out for 2019 as well. It's under the Airedale label.
Okay.
It is
And-
a single varietal Petite Verdot.
And what does Petite Verdot mean to you? Why do you like it?
It can be bold wine. It sometimes it's not. It's like my Airedale. It's like my Phoebe was. Sometimes she was kind of bold and brazy, and sometimes she was very sweet, and that's why I like Petite Verdot.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing varietal that doesn't get enough notoriety in the valley because it has incredible complexity, intensity, velvety softness. I mean, it's almost like you have fur on your tongue. I mean, it is there is some unction there, if that's a word, with Petite Verdot.
For me, there's not enough of it out there. It's a great wine.
Agree. Martin, where did you learn that word? Come on, unction, dude. I mean,
I watched a lot of Norm Macdonald and Saturday Night Live, just making stuff up. That's literally what we do here. No, it is. I'm so glad you do make a single varietal Petite because there is not enough out there. All right. Unfortunately, I think I can see some of the harbor lights coming into view.
All right.
And we are at about that time. We are Cellar Angels going on a 2-week hiatus. And then we are coming back for Sweeps Week after September 6th or so, Labor Day, 10th, Friday the 10th, we will be back on. We will be back on with Brian Kane of Sol Rouge. And we're going to be doing the flip side of that. We're going to be deconstructing blends and talking about single varietal Bordeaux. So we're looking forward to that. As you all know, at Cellar Angels, we have a chance to do work we're proud of, to do it for people who care, and to do it in a way where maybe they share it with someone that actually loves wine. All of you have been fantastic this evening, and we hope no one was offended who did not turn their camera on because apparently they were unclothed. Better luck next time that does happen. Cindy, you are looking great, sounding great, and tasting great. This was outstanding.
Thank you.
We love you, and I can't wait for us to see you again in person. So thanks so much, all of you, and especially Cindy. Raise a glass to you for spending your Friday with us.
Love you too, Martin.
Cheers. Be good.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone.